Let's see. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, sorry guys, I have to... oh man. Okay. So no amount of doubles is going to teach you how to cover the court properly. So there's problem number one. So how do you fix this problem? Hey guys! Welcome to another video game commentary by Tennisaloha. I am your host, Hueco, and today we're going to be playing Bandicoot, Crash Bandicoot. This is a game for kids or the whole family. And that's what I like to do in these video game commentaries. I like to play video games that anybody can watch. This is Crash Bandicoot number 3. So anyways, I'm on this stage here. Honestly, I haven't played in a while, so it's gonna be a bit of a challenge, especially because we're gonna be discussing tennis topics as we play. Alright? So I'm on this stage where you get to swim. That's pretty cool. Okay. Let's get motorized. And today's first topic is going to be doubles. Doubles for the player that is struggling with doubles, that doesn't really get it, which is totally understandable. There's a lot of information out there, and pros make their living, teaching pros make their living a lot of times off of doubles, because it is the most widely played nowadays. Singles is not as popular as it used to be. Doubles has become a lot more popular, and a big reason for why that is because it's more of a social thing. People like to hang out with other people more. So and also because of the average age of players is an older generation. They also prefer doubles because it allows them to cover the court way better and not have to run around too much. But whatever the case is, or the reason why they play doubles, it is true that doubles is more popular than singles. And that leads to the first problem to not understanding how to play doubles. Because what it is that people want to find out, or players want to make sure they're good at when they play doubles, is they want to make sure that they're in the right place, that they make the right decisions in terms of shots and movement around the court. But the main thing is to be able to cover the court, cover the area that you're supposed to cover. And not playing singles makes it more challenging, because playing singles teaches players how to cover the court because they have to. There's no other way. When you're only one player, you have to cover the whole court, and you have to recover after every single shot pretty much to the middle of the court, in general, to the middle of the court, to be able to cover whatever other possible shot your opponent might hit. And if you don't play singles and you only play doubles, it's particularly hard to get that sense, because it is not something that is like textbook. Okay, this is something that is more intuitive, the way you cover the court, because it also plays a little bit on your abilities, on your physical abilities and your shot abilities, your skill as a player. Some players can get away with recovering in a more aggressive manner, and some other players can't. Or some other players, their strength is being able to recover to a neutral area a lot, or have a defensive game. Again, whatever the case might be, you learn all these things by playing singles. Unfortunately, no amount of doubles is going to teach you this if you don't ever play singles. What? Let's see. Whoa. whoa. Oh, sorry guys, I have to. Oh man. Okay. So no amount of doubles is going to teach you how to cover the court properly. So there's problem number one. So how do you fix this problem? Well, play singles. And you don't really have to play tournaments and get very serious with singles, but you do have to at least play every now and then, you know, or hit when, you know, at least at the very least, hit with someone singles and not just play doubles. This will help a lot with your game overall, not just for doubles, but it will help with doubles, absolutely. You'll be able to cover the court better. Now, the second problem that players face kind of goes hand in hand with the singles problem, is that when players start doubles and they have not much experience with singles, they set up one front, one back. And what I mean is that they set up you know, one player at the net and one player on the baseline, you know, depending on who's returning, who's serving, and all that. And the problem there is that if the player doesn't have knowledge of court coverage that comes from playing singles, or, you know, just having experience in tennis, and they stand at the net, it's a bad combination. It's actually kind of a wasted time for the player if they want to understand how to properly move in doubles, because they don't have the view of the point. They don't know whether to look back when their opponent, or sorry, when their partner returns the ball. They don't know if they should move back, move forward, because they don't have a good view of the point. They're standing at the net, so the ball is either going past them a lot of times, or they have to hit a volley. And it doesn't allow them to see what the how do you say, what the scenario calls for, because they don't have this court coverage knowledge that comes from experience. So if you play doubles and you don't get it, and you know, it could be because you don't play too much singles, or even if you play singles, okay, even if you play a little bit of singles or a lot of singles, you could still have trouble with doubles because of the whole one back, one forward mentality. So if you are one of those players that are struggling with doubles, and you always set up at the net when your partner is returning or serving, then you need to start, oh, you don't need to do anything. A good idea, or my advice, is for you to move back, to start the point from the baseline every time. I know it sounds ludicrous because it looks tacky. You have a doubles match, and I'm suggesting that both players start at the baseline when they're serving and when they're returning. But there's a caveat to this, and this is the reason why it makes sense. If you play from the baseline and your opponents go to the net every time, it is very likely that you will lose. Okay? So I'm suggesting that you start from the baseline, both players. But I'm saying that if you stay at the baseline every point and your opponents go to the net, you're going to lose. So the caveat to starting from the baseline is making sure you go to the net with your partner, or you can be the one to start going to the net. Your partner serves and you're at the baseline with him, and you rally the point, okay? You use your ground strokes to play the point. But as soon as you get a short ball or any ball that pushes you forward, you go to the net quickly, and you tell your partner that when you do that they should go to the net with you. So basically, you start on the baseline, Oh man. You start on the baseline and you both agree, you and your partner, that as soon as we get a short ball and we can hit an aggressive shot, you both are going to rush the net together. Full regalia, okay? And what this will do is, number one, it's going to put a lot of pressure on your opponents, because every time you go to the net, you are very likely to win the point like this. Another thing that's going to do is it's going to teach you doubles. It's going to teach you what doubles means, where you should be, because in this scenario that I'm planting, a lot of things could happen. They can lob you as you're coming in, they can try to hit a passing shot, they can hit a drop shot, whatever the case. You're going to learn all these things that happen when you go to the net, and you're going to have a view of the point because you are moving at least in one intentional direction. I hope this makes sense. I'm saying start every point from the baseline and come in as soon as possible, and this will teach you court coverage and where you should be. Once you get good at this, once you even win a couple of matches doing this, because this will happen, you can win if you do what I'm saying. I mean, it'll be harder because if you're playing a team that knows what they're doing, they're going to take advantage that you're not at the net in one way or another. I would argue that that's a match you would have lost anyways, because you don't really get doubles and they're using double strategy to beat you, then it's likely that you lose. So, but if you're playing somebody that's kind of in the same level as you, and you incorporate this tactic that I'm saying, it is much more likely that you will win, because you are actually at least trying one strategy. And a lot of players go out there and they don't have any kind of strategy at all. So having a strategy that's very simple and straightforward sometimes makes the difference. And once you win a couple of these matches by being at the baseline every single point, then you can go to the net at the beginning of the points, and you'll start to play much better, because you'll be moving side to side when you're at the net. Now you'll be going back, you'll be going forward, because you recognize what your partner is going to do, whether they can come to the net or not. All right, so that covers that first topic. Problem number one: play more singles. That's the solution if you don't understand doubles. And problem number two can be fixed by standing on the baseline and starting every single point from the baseline and trying to go to the net as soon as possible along with your partner. The next topic, we're going to talk about USTA levels and what do they really mean. So the USTA levels are a bit confusing, and they're as follows. You got 2.5 to 7.0 in 0.5 increments. So 2.5, 3.0, 3.5, 4.0, 4.5, 5.0, 5.5, 6.0, and 7.0. There's really no 6.5. And what these levels mean is just basically novice, intermediate, advanced, and elite. Okay, let's break them down. I made a mistake on one of the videos I made about levels. I said that there were 4 levels in tennis, and I used one of the levels as beginner. And honestly, that's not a good word to describe the first level. The first level is actually novice, because beginner would be someone below 2.5 level. So basically someone that just starts, right? Like they've never played tennis in their life, and somebody hands them a racket, or they buy one and they go out and play. That's a beginner. They're beginning, right? But as they start to play, and they start to play often, they go from beginner to novice, because even though they don't have too much time playing yet, too much experience, they're not beginners because they already begun. They've been playing, let's say, 2-3 months. could be a novice by then, or even a few weeks. Depends on the player. You might take a year. I mean, it depends how often you play and all that. Okay, so you got the beginner. That would be, you know, for sake of argument, it would be like 1.0, 1.5, and 2.0. But there really aren't those levels because they're just beginners. They're just to differentiate a beginner level, meaning, you know, the age of the player, their physical abilities, whatever it may be. 2.5 in the USTA level would be a novice player. They're just starting and they're getting, you know, better. As they get better, they're going to start to play matches. And once they start to play matches, they're gonna get a little more competitive. You know, their ability is gonna increase, and they're gonna start to beat players in their same level. And so then they become 3.0 players or 3.0, and that is still a novice player. Or a lot of players think that 3.0 is kind of intermediate, but not really. It's still novice. It's still in the beginner phase of the levels. But they can play. They don't miss their serve that much anymore. They sometimes maybe they have a little bit of a weapon, like a good forehand or a good backhand. But once they keep playing and they start playing more tournaments, hopefully, and league, because those things are really what makes you get better, is tournaments and leagues and competition. You got the novice at 3.0. As they start to get better. All right, let's go with this one. They get to intermediate level, which is 3.5. They went from 2.5 to 3.0. From 3.0 to 3.5, which is an intermediate level. And at this stage, now there's a lot more consistency. There's a lot better or more variety of shots. The serve goes in a lot. The second serve is a lot more reliable. They can also play at the volleys. And so basically, they're getting a much more round game. Okay, once the players gets from 3.5 and they start to add a little bit of power in their game, because I think that's what really makes the difference here, is once the 3.5 starts to add a little more power and remain consistent and not miss too many first serves, then they really get to 4.0, which is still intermediate but a higher level than 3.5. And this one, this level might not seem as much, like 3.5 to 4.0 on paper doesn't sound like much. A lot of players don't see, you know, they don't see it. They either play up or down, and they think they should be playing at that level, but you know, they're either winning all the time or losing all the time, and that's a big tell that you know, they're not in the right level, because they think, oh, you know, I was a 3.5 for a long time, so I've been playing more, now I'm a 4.0. But it really doesn't work like that. You have to add more to your game. You gotta be harder to beat, you know, if you want to become if you want to go that 0.5 increment, and that's a big ask, you know, because a player that's 4.0 facing at 3.5, they're gonna have a pretty easy time to beat them. Okay, they're not. I mean, they'll still have fun, and they'll still get a match out of it, but they will win without a doubt, you know, without like, you know, without thinking, oh, I might lose this, you know. So that's a big difference. So from 3.5 and 4.0 are intermediate. Then if the player now here, the 4.0, would have to get a lot more practice. Okay, this is what's gonna differentiate a 4.0 to a 4.5, and 4.5 is already advanced, and a 4.5 usually has a lot more dedicated training than the 4.0, and that's what makes the huge difference. So a lot of players stay at the 4.0 level forever. They never really go to 4.5 because they don't have the time. They have work, they have family, whatever it is. They just don't find the time to become a 4.5 because that's what it requires, like a lot of practice. Okay, and focus practice, and also a lot of drive. No excuses kind of thing. Not just social playing. Because even at the 4.0, which is still intermediate, the game still is very social. So a 4.0 to get to 4.5 needs a lot more dedication and time on the court, miles. You want to put in the miles, 10,000 hours, that kind of thing. Because at advanced level, you're considered a bit of an expert. Okay, at 4.5. A 4.5, for example, a lot of coaches are 4.5 players. A lot of players who played college and even a much more advanced level, or which I'll get to in a minute, which is called the elite. Players that have played elite tennis, as they get older and as they don't play as often and they don't train, they become 4.5s. Believe it or not. I know it. I would argue even that pro players, as they get older, a lot older, and don't practice as much, they could play at the 4.5 level, or someone at the 4.5 level could give them a match, and they might have been a really good professional back in their day. So it's an advanced level. It's no joke. But of course, there's more levels, because as good as you can get, trust me, there's a lot other players getting way better than you. That's something that, and actually that's the reason why we have so many levels, is because there's always people advancing their game, and they have to play against someone else, and that someone else is also up in their game. So the game keeps increasing all the time. But we have these levels to determine, who should play against who. If the 5.0 player, which is still advanced, that's the top of the advanced players. A 4.5 and a 5.0 player, just like the 3.5 and the 4.0, the 5.0 can pretty easily beat a 4.5. But there might be a little bit of overlap at that level because there's a lot more determination and physical ability. So an upset, a 4.5 upsetting a 5.0 is not as rare as a 3.5 upsetting a 4.0. And let me tell you why. Because the speed of the game is a lot faster, and there are a lot more tangibles, if you will, and the consistency is there from the 4.5. So a 4.5 on a good day can beat a 5.0 a little bit more easily. Now, granted that a true 4.5 and a true 5.0, but in either case, the 5.0 should win most of the times, and that should go single-handedly. At 5.0, the player is almost elite. Okay, this is there are a lot of professionals that are 5.0. Professionals in the lower range of, for example, ITF, or I don't know if there's any ATP players out there that are 5.0, but I wouldn't be surprised. It's because the rankings go so low to like 1,000 maybe in the world, thousands in the world, that I would believe if there are 5.0 players in the ATP. But once you're playing on the ATP tour, then you're basically a 5.5 to a 7.0 player. So these players are all elite players. That's the last, level. Is elite. So Roger Federer is an elite player, and a NCAA Division 1 player is also elite. But the difference there is from 5.5 to 7.0. 7.0 basically means world-class player. I mean, the best of the best, a legend, like Roger Federer, or like Rafael Nadal, or Safin, or Nalbadian, any name that you can think of, because those are the names that you hear about. You always hear about the best of the best. So whenever you hear of, Martina Navratilova or Serena Williams, they're all elite, top 7.0 players. At their peak, of course, like I said, they go down in levels. It's just nature, okay? Just because of age, we all go down. So 7.0, it's world-class player. And a 6.0, I didn't mention the 6.0, but it's basically the same. It's someone who is a professional and is playing elite players, but they haven't won as much as the 7.0. They haven't won so many titles and recognition. So they're a 6.0, but they're still elite players. And at that level, of course, there's the same applies, where 0.5 is a huge difference. That's why you don't see, Medvedev lose in the first round of the US Open or the Australian Open or wherever. They don't lose in that first round because they're playing a 6.0 player, and they are 7.0 players. And I think that wraps it up, okay? 2.5 to 7.0, now you know. Let's move on. For the last chapter of this video game commentary by Tennisaloha, we're going to be discussing square inches on a racket. What does that mean, square inches? This is kind of like a lot of times the very first thing that players pay attention to when they're deciding which racket they should buy. So square inches basically means the size of your racket head, right? So every racket has a string area where the strings go, and how big that is, how big the string area is, that's the square inches. Back in the day, if you remember, they used to use, wooden rackets and alloy or whatever, metal rackets, and they were very small in square inches. Like the head of the racket and the string bed was super small. And as tennis evolved, rackets got better technology, and they became a lot bigger, especially in the head area where the strings are. And the square inches is the size of the bed. And typically, as time has moved on, the rackets have been getting bigger, and they're still on that trend. They're still getting bigger. And some rackets are offered at extremely big sizes, square inches. So in general, if you have a racket in your basement, one of those rackets that you get handed down, or that you used to use back in the day, considering that they're not wood or the ones that I'm talking about with a very small head, like kind of long and small. But considering that it's a modern racket, which they all kind of look the same, it's very likely that the square inches is about from 98 to about 105. Okay, 98 being a smaller, and 105 being a bigger racket. When I was growing up, and Agassi was oh man, I should have got it. Agassi and Sampras were battling it out. the common square inch size was, for example, Pete Sampras's racket was 88 square inches, which is still pretty small. It's actually very small in today's standard. And I believe Agassi's was, I think he used a 98 square inches. I might be wrong, and it might actually be a 93. I have to look that up. But somewhere around there. I mean, Sampras's was probably the smallest, or one of the smaller square inches in that era. And now it's pretty much unheard of. Okay, nobody uses an 88 square inches per se. It's not. The modern game is tailored for bigger square inch rackets. But at some point, it gets too big. Of course. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen a player with a huge racket, one of those, the Bubba. Okay, I think I can't remember the brand. I think it's either Gamma, or who makes the Bubba, or the Razor Gamma, I think. Might be wrong, but in any case, the Weed, is another brand, WEED. That's the brand of a racket that uses or advertises huge racket heads, and they look humongous. I mean, they're ridiculously big, and they're very popular. They're becoming more popular nowadays, especially, like I said earlier, that the age of the average tennis player increases every year, and basically young people are not playing tennis as much anymore. But older people are, and so the bigger square inch rackets are becoming a lot more popular. Now, what does this all mean to you, right? Let's just assume that you're an intermediate player. Okay, let's just go with a 3.5 player or a 3.0, between novice and intermediate. And you're wondering if there's a racket that you should get to improve your game. And I would say that there probably is a racket out there that would enhance your game or make it better, or even just make it easier for you to play with, like more healthy, like more comfort, a lot more comfort that you can get out of a racket if you think that your racket is not doing it for you. Some rackets, especially the older ones, are very stiff, and so they're pretty bad on your arm. Also, the materials are a lot heftier, so a modern racket might be something that you might want to consider. And square inches is going to play a role into what you decide to get. So what I would recommend for any player in the intermediate level is to try out rackets first before buying it. Try out rackets that are between 98 and 103, between 98 and 100 square inch. So pretty much either 98 square inch or, let's see this one. Yeah, let's go here. Between 98 square inches and 100. That means you only have pretty much three options: 98, 99, or 100. But actually 99 is very, very uncommon. There are a few rackets that have 99 square inches, but they're out there. But a 98 square inch racket is actually a good idea to try out. 98 square inches is going to be a nice medium, a nice balance medium, so that you can get the idea of what a square inch racket means. And the reason I say this is because a lot of times when players are looking for a racket, especially in this level, that they're getting better at tennis, but they still don't know exactly which is the best racket. They walk into a tennis store or a tennis shop, and they get recommended right away a 100 or a 102 or 105 or even a 110 square inch racket. Oh no. Well, I got the life, so it evens out. They walk into a store and they get handed a 105 or 110 square inch racket, or even bigger, maybe 115. And the problem with these rackets is that, yeah, they might be good for your game, but the person who's selling it to you doesn't know that. Nobody really knows that. Maybe you don't even know that. So how are they going to assume that a 105 or 110 square inch racket is going to be good for your game? Especially nowadays that they're advertising the quality of a bigger racket. But here's my beef with these bigger rackets. My beef with them is that because they're so big, they don't really allow the player to swing fully through the ball or have full swings, which is basically what you get out of smaller square inch rackets. So if you picture Sampras with his 88 square inch racket, his swings had to be long and smooth, and he had to time it just right to hit the right part of the strings every time and still be able to put power, because that's what these rackets offer. The bigger rackets, the bigger rackets offer easy power. So if you use a smaller racket, you don't have easy power. You have to have your own swing, your own mechanics to produce power, to produce control. I mean, actually, they're more control oriented when they're smaller head rackets. But you actually have to be the one with the good technique to be able to strike the ball in the right place and to still get a good shot out of it. Now, as you practice also with a bigger head racket, you will suffer a little bit because of that, because the racket won't allow you to hit it won't allow you to hit full swings, and it will reward you for just pushing the ball, and that makes your game worse over time, unless you're the player that would benefit from a bigger head racket because they know exactly what they want out of it. Okay, so it's a very personal thing which racket you use. And I see a lot of players with rackets that they're not really, that is not suited for them. And the reason they bought that is somebody told them, oh, that's a good racket, you should get this racket. So what I suggest, again, is that you first try a 98 square inch racket, which is on the smaller range that you're gonna find nowadays. Because again, nowadays they're getting huge. So that goes, the square inches, one more thing is that the square inches is just one of the specs of the racket. There are many other specs that are going to make a difference in the racket. For example, the weight, the swing weight, which is a different number from the weight, and actually sometimes I think, in my opinion, for me is more important. I'd rather have a nice feeling swing weight than the weight. The weight tells me nothing. It's when it swings, how does it feel? How heavy does it feel when it swings? And there's a number for that. I'm not saying that you should find a specific number for you, because I don't even know my number. I have no idea what I like. I just found a racket that I like. But what I'm saying is that the specs can vary in a lot of ways. 98 square inch racket, or maybe even different 98 square inch rackets, you'll be able to tell what a smaller frame feels like. And then from there you can try a bigger one. So you start with a 98, then maybe try a 100, and then a 105. 110 are more on a niche kind of players who are gonna benefit from a 110. Again, they made up their mind that they're not trying to get their swing better, or that they just rather win that day or matches that they play than keep getting better. because there are different players. There are players who are really trying to get better every day, and there are players who enjoy tennis just for this, for the exercise and the, getting together with their friends. And that makes a difference on what racket they should use, because if you're trying to get better and you're using a 110 racket, it's very likely that you won't get too much better because the racket won't allow you. I mean, as simple as that. The racket is hindering you getting better. Luckily, I think that players figure it out. I really do. I think that everybody kind of figures out, once they start to get better, they figure out, oh, this racket is there's something wrong with it. Maybe I try this one, and then they're like, whoa, this feels good. Like I can actually do the things that my coach tells me and stuff like that. This is what you can do if you go to your tennis shop, and instead of just telling the person, oh, I'm looking for a racket that suits me, can you help me with that? Instead, try to tell them, hey, I'm looking for a 98 square inch racket that is a lighter version, or a club player's racket, not a player stick. That's what we call them. We call them players rackets. That's what they're called, the advanced rackets. So you don't want a player racket if you're not ready for it. If you are, then yes. But I would say that to be ready for an advanced racket, at least you should be playing 4.0 already. 4.0 meaning you're intermediate, almost getting to advanced. Then I would suggest a player's racket. But there are some players at the intermediate level who would benefit from an advanced playing racket. I prefer the smaller frame rackets for intermediate players who really want to get better, because the racket forces them to hit with long swings and with more speed, racket speed. That's another thing that these rackets, the big rackets, don't allow you to do. They don't allow you to get too much power if you don't have the speed, the racket speed. So you have to have racket speed in order to get the ball to go over. Otherwise, the ball just kind of is dead. We can try next time and have more topics. Would you join me for that? Please comment if you'd like to play another game. Any game that's family oriented or rated G. If you comment and you like that game, maybe I can try to get it. Not a brand new game, please, because I don't want to spend too much money on a game. But if there's a game you'd like to see in this type of commentaries, let me know. And I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
Game over.